Welcome to the Budding Author Podcast with me, Simon Ward. Today, we're going to be talking to a creative writer, novelist, and lover of coffee. That is Nicky Shearsby. Hi, Nicky. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Simon. It's lovely to be here.
It's great. And from the wonderful climes of Derbyshire.
Indeed.
That's lovely. Right then, just to kick things off, what got you into writing to start with?
Like most writers, I've been writing since I was very small. And always loved storytelling, always loved reading. However, as always, life gets in the way, and I didn't take fiction writing seriously until about 5 years ago. I sold my business and I was able to just take a step back and actually have a look at where I wanted to go with my writing. I was thinking, well, now I've kind of got a bit of free time. What do I want to do? So I dabbled with a few genres and decided that I absolutely loved thrillers. Writing them, reading them, it just seemed to fit with what I wanted to say. So published 2 years ago and not looked back.
Yes, you've sort of kicked off quite well, haven't you, really?
So far, yes, indeed. So my debut came out 2 years next month, actually. It was February the 22nd, 2022. So it's since then it's been going quite well. So my fifth novel actually comes out in March. So that's Darkwitch Hollow.
Darkwitch Hollow. Very good.
Darkwitch Hollow, yes.
Did you go straight down the traditional publishing route, or did you self-publish first?
I did. No, after I'd finished my debut, it was a case of what do I do now? Where do I go? So I just had a very good long look on the internet, different options, self-publishing, traditional. Do I want an agent? Do I need to go self-publish just to get something out there? And then I found a couple of publishers that accepted unedited manuscripts.
Are they edit as well? Yeah, got you. Okay.
Sorry?
They edit as well, yeah?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So I just sent my debut off just on a whim, almost, not expecting to hear anything back. 4 weeks later, my current publishers actually came back and offered me a contract straight away. So I was shocked and over the moon. It literally was the first one. So I was,
and they're so SRL publishing.
SRL publishing. It is, they're great. They really are. They've got a fantastic ethos for publishing and for their eco and environmental credentials as well. So they're a really good team of people to work with.
I think some of the concern with going down the traditional publish route is that people sort of try and influence your work and your style and that sort of stuff.
No, I mean, my writing style actually oddly has changed so dramatically since my debut because of the input that they've actually given me. It's phenomenally different now, the way I write now to the way I wrote just 2 years ago when I submitted my debut actually it's 3 years because it takes about a year before they actually publish your books. So I could actually rewrite my debut now several times over, just literally on the fact that my writing style is now different. So to have everything in a nutshell to kind of like bring it all up to the same level, I feel that their input has been vital. Their editors are fantastic. From how they've edited my earlier books, To the Bitter End and Green Monsters especially, they actually brought in one of their newer editors in for Green Monsters, and it was just so brilliant to work with somebody, because when you're a writer and you're writing just yourself, you've only got your own thoughts and your own words. When someone else comes in and actually looks at what you've done and said, well, if we do this, we can actually tighten it up and make it a little bit better. Initially you think, what are you doing? How are you going to change what I've done? But then when you see what they've done and realize just how much better things can be, When I write now, I'm automatically thinking on those levels. So when they're looking at it and editing it now, there's hardly anything they need to change, which is fantastic for me and for them. So hopefully, as I keep going and obviously getting more novels out there, working with them is just going to be fantastic. So yeah, enjoying it.
So initially they were sort of tweaking your story, or just the way you were saying
no
it?
No, it was just certain things. So like, for instance, most writers have a tendency of using phrases over and over again, and weirdly I tweeted about this a couple of days ago to say that, you know, sometimes you look back at your manuscript and you think, crikey, how many times have I said the same phrase?
I saw that actually.
Yeah.
I saw that. Mine was I know, or I knew, I think.
Mine this time was of course. I don't know why I kept saying of course, and so I literally, it was ridiculous, so crazy. But filler words such as actually, rather, that, even and, you don't always need to use and. Commas would suffice instead of having and this and that and the other. So just tightening your writing structure. When you first start to write, you're just learning your craft, you're learning your trade. So when you start working with editors, it feels like because they can see it from a commercial side. So they're not the writer, they're basically making things tighter. So it's just completely changed how I do things now. So hopefully my writing style now is such that I registered that the errors I would have made 2 years ago that I don't do now. So so it's all good.
But what I think you've been very fortunate or very good to grab a traditional publisher straight away. I think for me, I didn't go that route. I thought I've got some more to learn first, and I got Pro Writing Aid. I don't know whether you've heard of that.
Yeah, I used that, and I also use Grammarly. They're both terrible. They really are. All I use them for is literally, you know, have I spelled something wrong that I've completely forgot, you know, missed it or something. Half the time it doesn't even pick that up until I've printed it out and reading it back, and I'm like, what have I spelt that like? So I don't kind of like really go into the artificial world of fixing any writing errors. As a writer, a human input is valuable.
I think I went a bit psycho on that to start with. So I'm sort of very much sort of process driven, and I put it through Pro Writing Aid, and it was like correcting all these things. It kept correcting everything. It was like, no, I don't want you to correct that. And after I've been using it for a while, I began to see it more as a guide rather than the rule sort of thing.
Don't take it as Don't take it as gospel. Take it as their suggestions might not fit with what you want to say. So a lot of the sentence structure, they will put and after everything. You've got to put and in there. You've got to put and in. It's like, I don't want to put and in every other word I'm writing. It would just read so amateurish. And
so you put and into everything, and then target.
And then they say take it out.
The ever declining circle, isn't it? Oh,
it is terrible. Because you'll make a change and think, okay, I'll agree with that change, and then a few sentences later they'll come back and say, well, we can change that again. We just changed that once. So no, never, as a rule of thumb, don't be guided by these programs. Just use them as a reference, and then be guided by your own abilities.
And then you're reading books, and you see, well, hang on, that's not right. They can't be using that. And these are like well-renowned, very successful authors, and they think, you shouldn't be using that. That's not correct. And
honestly, the amount of times I'm reading now and I'm editing someone else's book as I'm reading it, I'm driving myself mad. I've become proper full-on edit mode every single day. So I can't now sit down and enjoy a book without thinking, well, I would have put that like that, and you could have reworded that better. It's stupid.
With my first, it took me 4 years in total, because I sort of went through so many rounds of editing. I worked with a writing group, and then we sort of edited each other's work, sort of thing, or sort of commented on other people's work. And then the writing group stopped, so then I created my own writing group, and it went through the same book again. But then after getting it out there, I got some feedback, and I'd made some big sort of errors really in it. That it was way too graphic on this, like sex scenes and that sort of thing. So
Yeah,
I
there's a
regretted that.
balance.
So
Yeah,
I've
there
gone
is
back.
a
So since I've gone back and edited absolutely everything, and so my first 3 books, I've edited all of those and sort of changed them again. So it's much more accommodating now, I think.
user friendly, unless you're writing erotica, yeah. And then obviously you
Yeah,
can get away.
that's a whole different world, isn't it? I think it gets a bit crazy. I think a lot of books I read, like Lee Child's, for example, the first one of his I read, Jack Reacher, I thought it was a great story, and it flowed really well. And then I'm reading the next one, it's like, this is the same story. Do you find that problem?
Yeah, there's quite a few of, especially the bigger named authors out there. They found their niche a long time ago. Ian Fleming, for a prime example, with his James Bond series.
Yeah.
I found that they were the same. Not that I ever read the James Bond books, but obviously my husband's massive James Bond movie fan. But they were the same story, just with different baddies, different locations, and it was over and over. I find Lee Childs and other people, won't name names, but they do tend to, because they were quite successful with one formula decades ago, they continue churning out the same things over and over again, and it does massively dilute what they do. Hopefully I'll never do that. If I ever do, you can shoot me.
I think the thing is, you can't knock them for it because they're very successful and they're selling books.
Well, that's the thing. And their publishers are then massively wanting them to repeat that same success.
Yeah, give me the same again. Give me another one.
Exactly. And I always think if you tell a story and tell it really, really well, and it's really tightly done, and it's kind of like it flows from start to end, it doesn't matter what you say as long as you've got that reader's attention. So because I'm a thriller writer, it doesn't mean I'm going to be writing the same plot over and over again with different characters, because that would just that would annoy me. I would get bored. And you sometimes with these authors, you can see that they got bored a long time ago, but it's their job, it's what they do. So they kind of are almost stuck in a loop of that they need that cash. It's instant money for them. As soon as they put a new title out, they're guaranteed millions of pounds or dollars worth of sales, and it's such a shame because it's ruined the industry. And that's where my publishers have actually stepped in and said, we want people who can write stories that are different and actually do something that isn't out there, rather than just the same tried and tested junk really that you tend to find. I do get bored. I pick up a book and I'm like, next especially the endings are always so let down massively.
It's like watching a Christmas film, isn't it? It's like watching Christmas films, isn't it? They don't get on, they get together, something happens just before Christmas and they fall out, and then it's a mistake, and they all get, and like every single film's the same. And that's, I enjoy reading books that are sort of new stories, and from my point of view, when I'm writing, the story just takes over me really and sort of finds its own direction almost.
Absolutely.
Are you more of a plotter or a pantser?
I knew you was going to say that then, actually. I'm a plotter, but what I do, I work out every scene that I want to write, but then I allow for that story to then take its own path. So I might have written a dozen chapters and then realize actually something needed to happen a little bit earlier or a little bit later, and I allow my characters to then tell me where they want me to take them, and then that's why it takes it's a process, isn't it, of going from A to B.
I suppose that's similar for me really. I think initially I was the pantser, just sort of going wild sort of thing, and as you sort of start to understand your craft a little bit better, you have sort of a guide of what you want to happen, but then once the characters get involved, sort of things start changing. What's been your biggest challenge so far?
Biggest challenge, I know it sounds silly, but I don't even know if I've had a challenge. Getting published. Yeah, I mean, getting published, you'd think that was, a huge challenge. But yeah, my publishers were absolutely brilliant from day one. Writing, I love it, absolutely love it so much that for me, it is second nature. It is not something that if I had a break from writing, I would feel lost. And I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So although I do write every day, I'm not there 12, 14 hours a day doing it. Yeah. I do take breaks in between, but I do love what I do. Social media, probably, that's challenging. I mean, obviously, Twitter for me has done really well, but other platforms just don't seem to stack up. And it's probably just because I've only been going 2 years, less than 2 years, not even 2 years until next month. But yeah,
Twitter's gone mad for you, hasn't it?
Twitter has been fantastic. It really, really has been brilliant. Even I'm surprised.
It sounds like you've had a pretty good run so far, and obviously, sort of coming from when your business the skincare manufacturing.
It was, yes, it was indeed. Yeah.
What sort of that got to a point? Did you sell that business? You got to a point that you needed to just break free?
Yeah, several factors were happening at the same time. The business itself was taking off, and it was because we actually launched the organic skincare range when it wasn't done as a private label, because it was all private label, so we manufactured for other brands. So it wasn't widely done in the UK at quality. So it started to take off really, really quite big. And at the same time, my husband's health started to decline quite dramatically. So he was becoming more and more unwell, and days I wasn't able to leave him to go to work. And it was just becoming quite complex to run the business and to make sure he was okay. So I made the decision to sell and just to take a step back and see where I wanted to go with my life. And it worked out really well. It was, it was the best decision. Although I do miss it, and I miss making those products because they were beautiful. I don't miss the stress. I do like having a much quieter life now. So yeah, it's nice. Just me and my dog and my husband.
And the coffee, that's it, yeah.
And the coffee, absolutely, which I've got an empty mug there.
Is your husband okay now?
No, he's got a degenerative spinal condition, so his mobility is quite poor now, but it will get worse as he gets older. So that's why, for me, writing, being at home, it's perfect, because my days, I can dedicate my days now to my writing while still be here for him as well.
Oh, that's perfect fit, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I love the quiet. I love the peace. I love the silence of not being out, having to get out there and, the rat race, driving, traffic, people, phone calls every day, millions of emails. I don't miss that rush of things.
And that moment when you're sort of into your writing and you're doing your first draft, you sort of step into the world and your mind can just go off into
absolutely. It's a brilliant escape from your daily struggles and your battles that, because my husband's quite poorly now. So it just takes me away from what I'm thinking of it all as well. So it kind of helps me to focus on something else for a few hours a day.
That's it. I think from my point of view, I'm sort of my sort of career is sort of, I'm trying to sort of slow down, and the writing sort of side of things was sort of like almost like my retirement job in some ways. And,
yes, I always said I would write when I retired.
Say again.
I always said I would write when I retired. I didn't expect to retire early, but happy days.
Well, that's it, and it's going very well for you. When you've completed your first draft, how long would it normally take you to do a first draft for a novel?
So I usually plough through the first draft quite quickly. So, excuse me, my dog wants to come up now.
Okay, hello to the dog.
Hello. All right. Yeah, so my first draft, I usually plough through about 3 or 4 weeks. I get it done quite quickly.
You must be very quick on the
Oh yeah, I learned to touch type when I was 11, so yeah, absolutely not a problem on that side of things. But I just plow through it. I don't care about errors. I don't care about repetitive phrases. I just get it done. And then from there, then I'll go through. The second draft is basically me adding all the detail. So any points or plot lines that I want to add in, that's the stage then that I go back and I actually start to flesh it all out. I write around 6 or 7 drafts in total. And when people say drafts, they assume I start again from scratch. But what all it does is basically just re-editing what you've already done until it's perfect. And then I'll print it all out, and then I'll read through it over and over and over and make any errors, like changes, handwritten on the actual printed versions, and then reprint them once it's all done. So it's a massive process, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and does that process getting quicker for you, or?
No, it's getting slower.
Oh dear.
I think it's because I'm now actively editing my own work as I'm going along as well, and noticing the stuff that my publishers say last year. When my publishers, I sent off a manuscript, my publisher would come back and it'll be slightly edited and changed, and it'd be perfect, and I sign it off, job done. Now I'm actually doing that before I send it over to the publishers, so hopefully eventually they'll get it, and the editor will be able to just sit there and go, oh yeah, that's fine, sign it off straight away. That's my goal. I don't know how practical that is, but that's my goal.
So just coming back to your first draft. So with your first draft, would you do sort of character descriptions and descriptions of places, or we just get writing?
No, I just literally, that's why it literally takes me about 3 weeks to 4 weeks to do it, because I just will put in brackets, add scene here, add character description here, and then I'll come back and that's the second draft, and then I'll go, right, I know what I need to do now on each section, and then I start to flesh it out. So it's almost like an onion. There's lots of layers to it, and it kind of builds up.
That's a good idea. I think I get sort of tied up in that. I sort of in the descriptions. I think it's a good idea to sort of go and run more with that. I think when you're talking about your characters, though, the sort of essences of your character, do you have that in mind at the start of your story, of the feelings of the character, what the arc's going to be for the character?
Yeah, I do have quite an extensive research process that I do before I even start to write. So I research everything that I want my characters to be, all their quips, their quirks. You know, I don't really get too hung up on their looks. You know, if they glance in a mirror, they might notice their blue eyes or their dark hair or something. But it's not like I'm actively describing every single character. Like a lot of authors I see will sit there and they'll describe their character in such detail before anything. You don't need to add all that in. Just allow it to happen throughout the book. Let your character tell their own story and how they are, and what they look like through what other people will see when they look at them, rather than physically have all this description. And I do find that when especially new writers, I mean, I've done it myself years ago, you sit there and you think this first draft needs to be this masterpiece where everything's in and it's all there and it's ready to go. And it's not true. And most of the time you're writing notes, and sometimes I'll just put extend scene here, and then I'll go back to it because you just need to make sure you've got the first draft is literally just the starting point. And you don't need to really have anything detailed in that. It's just to get the story out of your head. That's all it's for. It's like having a block of clay. You've got the clay, now you need to mold it into something beautiful. But you can't mold it into something beautiful until you've got the clay. So that first draft to me is me buying the clay and sticking it there and saying, right, that clay's ready to go. And once I've got the clay, then I can start to, or a painting, you get your canvas, there's a masterpiece just doesn't happen instantly. It takes weeks, months, sometimes years for the artist to actually finish it and make it look beautiful. So that's the same with writing.
So like you're almost just putting the background into the picture sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. You start with a sketch, and it's a real rough sketch, and then you'll put the sky in, and it's really rough. But by the time you've finished, it's wow, realistic lifestyle, kind of start come in. But
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I've probably got too caught up and trying to put too much detail into my first draft. I
Yeah,
think I do
a
it
lot of
similar to
people
you,
do.
sort of like I sort of extend bits. But I think when I'm within my first draft, I'll sort of get into detail on a particular scene and
But
flesh
then
that
you get
out
stuck.
more. And then
Yeah,
other
then you
scenes
get
perhaps
stuck
flesh
then,
out.
don't you?
Yeah, say again.
You get stuck though, don't you? Do you kind of
Yeah.
find that if you're writing a scene and you're getting all this detail in, you're obsessing over that one area rather than just get the book finished? Just get it done. It's not supposed to sound good on the first draft. It's supposed to sound terrible because it's a first draft. And any kind of even established writers will say the same. Just get it out your head, get it on paper. Doesn't matter. No one's ever going to see that. It's only ever for your reference. Almost like extensive notes. That's all I see a first draft is. It's just a note form. Okay. And then you go back in and then you start to add all the details. You start to work on your sentence structure and all of the flow and the shape and the style of the actual book itself.
Yeah, I use on my thing. I do read aloud, so I read it back. So it's read by a computer effectively, but it reads back to you. I pick up a lot of errors doing that.
I've tried that a few times, but it sounds so robotic. It just does not add anything to it doesn't add anything to my creativity at all. So I tend to kind of like read it aloud to myself, and that works better.
Yeah. And who's the first person that normally has a check for you, who reads through?
My publisher. Yeah, no one sees it until it's ready to go to the publisher. Yeah.
So you got no proofreaders, no alpha or beta readers,
no beta readers, no proofreaders. No one sees it until I'm happy with that last sentence, and I can send it over to my publisher. That's when I know that it's as best I can possibly get it.
You're obviously very good.
Oh, thank you. I'll let readers decide that one.
Well, we're definitely gonna put some links in the description for people who want to have a look at your stuff. That's good.
Thank you.
Where do you sell most of your books, or where does the publisher sell most of your books?
Well, they sell worldwide. Obviously, the biggest bookseller is Amazon. But the Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, WH Smith's a bit hit and miss at the moment because they seem to only want to be picking up the big titles. I suppose they just wanted to guarantee those sales. But my publishers are trying to push for direct sales from their website, because you can buy signed copies of my books from their website. You can, for every book they sell, they will plant a tree. They're quite big on the environment and their eco credentials. Yeah, so they're really trying to push. So I try to push lots of people to srlpublishing.co.uk. Click on my books, you can get a signed copy. It doesn't cost you any more money to get a signed copy of my book, and you get a free bookmark as well. So that's a bonus. And they plant a tree. So what's not to love?
Well, that sounds perfect. We will have you back, as we sort of mentioned earlier. We're going to have you back, and we can talk about things like how you managed to get up to over 68,000 followers on Twitter in very short order.
Thank you.
And what was the other thing? There's another thing in my head. I've just forget. Just talking about your sort of marketing process and how you got that bite straight away with the publisher is the
yes,
one.
And I know I say I'm lucky, but I did do quite a lot of research into how to submit something to a publisher before I did it. And it's not about sending it to any publisher. You have to find the publisher that actually matches your ethos and your writing and the genre. If you're writing a romance and you're selling it, you're trying to sell a book to a thriller publisher, they're not going to accept it, and then you're going to feel rejected. But it's just that you've hit the wrong person. So yeah, there is a method behind it.
Well, it seems like you're very well on the way to a superb journey, and
fingers crossed. I'm very excited for my new series as well. So yes.
And what's the new series going to be called?
It's the Flanagan Files, and the premise is it's an ongoing thriller series told from both the antagonist side and the protagonist. So you get to see the story unfolding from both sides of the tale. So the first novel is Beyond the Veil, which came out in September. So far it's getting fantastic feedback. So that's really good. I'm really excited for that one. And I'll be launching one novel every year of the Flanagan Files moving forward. So yeah, it's all exciting.
That's brilliant stuff. Well, thanks for coming on the Budding Author podcast, and I'm sure people listening will have enjoyed listening to your story. And I say we'll have you on again, and we'll sort of get more snippets of your process and that sort of thing. So from the Budding Author podcast, thank you, Nicky. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll be back very soon. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.